Hey friends, so a few years ago I made a video about masturbation from a Christian perspective, and ever since then I have gotten so many emails from you guys saying basically the same question, which is, I'm addicted to masturbation, I don't know how to stop, please help, what do I do? And so I've been hesitating to make a video on this just because I usually talk about things that I've personally struggled with, and this isn't something I've personally experienced. But recently as I thought about it, I realized, I have struggled with kind of like an addiction to food and binge eating. And I use the term addiction loosely here. I'm not talking about a diagnosed addiction, but I am talking about those cycles that you can't seem to break free from. You're like trying and trying to stop this habit and you just can't seem to, and there's a lot of shame involved. And I think that addictive cycle, whether it's to food or masturbation or pornography or something else, I think it's all very similar, and we fight those addictions in a lot of the same ways. And so today I want to share 6 ways that you can break the addictive cycle of masturbation. So before we go any further, if you're new here, welcome. My name's Tiffany Dawn. We usually do videos about relationship advice, but every so often we do one about like sex or masturbation or just the questions that you guys have. So hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this and a lot about relationship advice. Now, the overarching idea for today's video is the idea of neuroplasticity in your brain. And if you've never heard of it before, don't zone out. It's actually a super simple concept. It's the idea that when you do something enough times, your brain creates like a pathway. So whenever we face a trigger like loneliness, if we always binge eat, then our brain creates that pathway. So it's like, I'm lonely, I binge eat. That's just the easiest way to go. It's well-worn, well-traveled. This is the way my brain wants to send me. And so our brain needs to start creating new and different pathways in order to break addictive cycles. And so what I want to talk about today are 6 ways that you can start to change the pathways in your brain so that when you hit those triggers, instead of automatically being routed down the path of masturbation in your brain and having to fight that, instead, your brain says, here are other pathways that you can take. So pathway builder number 1 is fill the void. When I was struggling with binge eating, there was a physiological need. I was hungry. I needed food. Just like our bodies are created with this physiological desire for sex. That's a normal thing. It's a good thing. But whenever there's this addictive cycle present, when you want to stop something but you can't, it's because of something deeper. There's more going on than just a physical need. So for me with the binges, yes, I was hungry, but I was also lonely. That was my biggest trigger, the biggest void in my heart. And I was essentially trying to fill my loneliness with food. I'd be totally fine all day long as I'm busy with classes and stuff, but I got back to my dorm room in college at night. All my friends are out with their boyfriends and I'm there alone, the single girl who just went through a breakup, and all I wanted to do was binge eat this huge family-sized bag of pretzels. And it was like every pretzel I ate, I was hoping it would somehow fill or numb the loneliness I felt. But it would never be able to do that because you can't fill an emotional need with physical food. And I think masturbation can be that same way, where we try to use it to numb or fill voids in our lives that it can never fill. So before I ever stopped binge eating, I had to start putting in place ways to fill that void in other ways. For me, that was friendships with people who loved me for me, seeing mentors to talk about some of my past struggles with, and spending time with God. And as I started filling the void with those things slowly, I'm talking months and years went by, but slowly those things were able to fill the void of loneliness that binging never could. Pathway builder number 2 is get some help. It's so easy to think I have an addiction, I can fix it on my own. But it's so important to have other people in our lives. Just the simple act of sharing your struggle with somebody else breaks some of the power of that struggle over you. When something's a secret, it's magnified. It seems so much larger than life, but when we share that with somebody else and say, can you encourage me? Can you walk me through this journey? That in itself just breaks some of the power over you. Pathway builder number 3 is a surprising one. It's exercise. Exercising releases endorphins in our brains. It helps us feel better about ourselves and about life in general. It clears our mind. And when we're tempted to give into an addictive cycle like binging or masturbating, usually it's when our minds are cloudy and foggy and we're not feeling good about ourselves. So exercising regularly, just even if it's a few minutes a day or a few times a week, that can do wonders. And on top of that, building a new habit of exercise is also building new pathways in your brain, which is good practice for it. Pathway builder number 4 is take one small step. I tend to have all or nothing thinking. Either I'm all into the binge or I never binge again. But that is not helpful thinking when it comes to breaking an addictive cycle, because breaking an addictive cycle isn't all in or all out. There is an in-between phase, and you're in that in-between place for a long time. So the first small step for me was to leave 2 bites at the end of every meal. When I saw food, I felt like I had to eat it. I could not stop. And so I would binge an entire bag of pretzels, a family-sized bag, but I would leave 2 pretzels in the bottom of the bag. And that was really hard for me to do at first. But I started practicing that as my small step, and once I got comfortable with that, I could add another small step. So if you don't know the first small step for you, talk with someone you trust, whether that's a mentor, a counselor, a friend, and say, what do you think is the first small step that I can take? Pathway builder number 5 is celebrate each success. I remember going like 5 days in a row without binge eating, and that was amazing. And at the end of that time, I binge ate, and all I could think about was, I cannot believe I just messed up again. I can't believe I was on such a good streak, and now I just did it again. Tiffany, you're never gonna get over this. Why was I so focused on the binge instead of being focused on those 5 days that I just went without binge eating? That was amazing. You know, we talk a lot about accountability partners being someone we call when we make a mistake, but I think they also need to be our success partners, people we call when we did really good so they can say, that is awesome, and celebrate with us and say, you got this, girl, because you need to hear that. And the last pathway builder, number 6, is be kind to yourself. Breaking a cycle does not look like this. It's not a straight pathway up. It looks like this. There are ups and there are downs. You're getting better, but there are going to be ups and downs along the way. That is normal. It's part of the process. And it's so easy to get down on ourselves when we're in a downward part of that journey. But that negative self-talk, that guilt, it perpetuates the addiction cycle. It triggers it. When you start feeling guilty or disgusted or mad at yourself, it makes you want to do it again. You're like, okay, well, to make myself feel better, I'm gonna go binge or masturbate, or you fill in the blank. So instead, we need to be kind to ourselves. So when you're doing that self-talk in your head, say it out loud so you can hear it. So for me, it would have been like, I can't believe you just fell again. What a failure you are, Tiffany. You're never gonna get better. Say that out loud and then ask yourself, would I ever say that to a friend? And the answer would be no, or at least it should be no. And so then ask yourself, well, what would I say to a friend in my situation? And then start saying that to yourself. Because when you're kind to yourself, when you say, it's okay, I'm making progress. Yeah, I had an off day, but it's okay. That is gonna give you the confidence you need to break the cycle. So if you're in a place where you're just like, man, I am in a downward part of my cycle, I feel like I keep falling down, I keep messing up, then I want you to watch this video right up here. It's called When You Can't Seem to Break Free, especially if faith is important to you. This video is all about how God is working and how loved you are, even when you keep messing up and you can't seem to get it together. I have been there, and these are the 3 things that I want you to know. I love you guys, and I'll see you next week and in that video. Bye.